I started by saying, all of you know that I had to pay PG for that introduction, right? Because the agreement, she has to make it sound so big and important, and then I had to pay her for all of that. But thanks, I mean, Chennai holds a very special place in my heart, and then to know that the likes of friends like Karthik is in the audience, apart from Vijay and Satish and all of them, man, I miss Chennai, right? So hopefully, I was talking to a few of the organizers, and I said I look forward to maybe one of the district conferences to come to Chennai once again and then see all of you. Bit of nostalgia, so I apologize for the emotional opening, I would say. Right. So here's the thing. Congratulations to the EXCO, the Meraki team, and everyone. You all are doing a job, and it's my honor more than anything to be a part of such an important meeting. And the reason why I am able to do this today is because, including some people in that room and people in our district, have been generous in sharing their knowledge with me. And that's why whenever there is an opportunity to come and share knowledge, it doesn't matter whether it's via Zoom on a Saturday morning or whether it is to come across, travel across, doesn't matter. We love that, that's the spirit. I thought I'd do something slightly different. That is, I've tried it in Sri Lanka and it's proven to be successful. So this is why I'm trying it here, is that I know Vijay and nobody is aware of it. That is, I start the session, because end of the day we're going to speak about the art of impromptu speaking, right? What better way to do that than to make this session impromptu, which means we start with Q&A. There's no keynote. Whatever you want to learn about impromptu speaking, ask me the questions. Whatever is challenging you, whatever is limiting you, whatever you thought about as an idea, or whatever you tried doing that didn't work out, ask me. And then let me be impromptu and share that. Maybe Satish or someone can channel the questions, and then, because I don't think I'll hear everyone from the audience.
Sure, Sandun. Any questions from the audience? If you like to ask about impromptu speaking, the challenges or the questions. Anil, yeah.
I want to know about the pacing within a table topic speech. How does he pace himself? First few seconds, then the body, then the conclusion. Or does he utilize the full 2 minutes and all those things? You can maybe repeat if it's not.
Sandun, you heard it?
I heard.
Yeah.
I heard it.
Okay.
Good question. Thanks.
Okay. Anything else? Or we'll go one by one. Yeah. Please.
We'll go question by question.
Yeah.
I think that question gives me provision to cover, like, say, 50% of my content, right? So here's a trick. Over the years, what I have realized is it's virtually impossible to structure a 2 to 2.5 minutes within the first 5 to 10 seconds that you hear the topic. If anybody is trying and are successful in a technique, I would be happy to learn that. Because my experience is the moment you try to think about what am I going to start, what am I going to say in the body, how am I going to conclude, it puts you in a whirlwind of thinking and thoughts that is going to upset the start of the speech. So I will share with you the formula that I practice, which is start with the first thought that occurs in my mind. But to be fair, there is a step before that I need to share with you in terms of my thinking. This has nothing to do with my uttering of words. This is my thinking. My thinking is, I look at the topic, whatever the impromptu topic that I'm given, I look at it as a question. Even though it is a statement, you immediately can think of that statement as a question. I will give you an example. Let's assume the topic that we got in 2016, which is, if it is for me, it is up to me. If it is for me, it is up to me. Now you must understand that this is a bit of an abstract statement. So you can't think of this statement as a question. Instead, what you need to do is you have to think of the topic as a message or an idea. Now, what do I mean by that is, when you hear, if it is for me, it is up to me, I try to think of that idea in my own words. When I think of, if it is for me, it is up to me, in my words, the idea is, I need to take responsibility for what I want. Now, the moment I think of it as an idea, I ask myself this simple question, hey, is that true or is that correct according to my thinking? Those thoughts, or very simply put, those are the few things that goes on in my mind from the moment I hear the topics master read the topic and to the few seconds that I start the speech. That's the only thought that goes in my mind. I hear the topic, I interpret it into an idea, and I ask myself, do I agree or disagree with it? Then I know this sounds pretty risky, but I rely on my instinct, I rely on my intuition, and I start my speech with the first thought that comes to my mind. Now there I don't think about whether my first thought is a quotation, or whether it is a story, or whether it is a question, or whether it is attractive enough, whether it has a book. I don't think about that. Because what I want to show and demonstrate there is that I am confident enough to start with the first thought that is in my mind. And I am relying on my intuition that somehow this first thought that I get is related to this, related to the topic, right? And I'll be arrogant to say that it works all the time. There has been a few rare occasions where I've started with the thought and then 30 seconds into the speech I'm thinking, yeah, what did I start with? Right? It happens. But what happens is, over a period when you master this technique, such failures are few and far in between. Very often you get it right. So that's my thinking about the start. And then how do I structure the rest of the speech in terms of the body and the conclusion? Simple thought, and this is my technique that I share with anyone and everyone who asks me about impromptu speaking. That is, I think in questions and I speak in answers. By the way, this is nothing original or copyrighted to me. This is how all of us humans operate. Our thinking is in questions. And you're thinking in a question right now. You're thinking, really? Yes, really. We think in questions. So what I do in a table topic or an impromptu speaking assignment is that I think of an appropriate question and then I give the answer to that as my impromptu speech. Example, let's go back to that topic I just said. If it is for me, it is up to me. So the idea that I have is I need to take responsibility for my own results. Now immediately the question that I ask is, hey, do I agree with it or not? Yes, I do. And then if I agree with it, what evidence do I have in my life? What personal experiences? What have I read from the popular culture? What song or what story have I heard? That's the next question I ask in my head. So the moment I ask about what are the examples or experiences from my life where I had to take responsibility for my own self, the first thought that came to my mind in 2016 was my beautiful wife and my marriage. That's not a beautiful thought, it's a scary thought very often in life. That's the first thought that comes to my mind, irrespective of the topic. Even if you record this, please don't share it. She's downstairs right now. The point is, whenever there is an existential question or a life-threatening question, I can't help but start with my wife. But that was in 2016, but now I start with my two sons. Life is very difficult, right? So that is that. So then what did I do? About that story about my wife and my marriage, did I have to take responsibility? That was the body of my speech. I very simply gave the example that when my wife came to me after a huge breakup and then told me that she's going to get out of the country and go, it didn't even take me a few seconds, because by then I've known her for 4 years and I have thought in my head that, hey, this is a girl that I want to marry and call the mother of my children. So when she came and said that she's going to leave the country, I said, hey, I'm going to join you. She's like, are you nuts? This this is, we are after a major breakup, we are not even a couple right now, I'm going to go abroad and you're saying you're going to come? Like, have you even thought about it? At that point I realized, hey, this is what I want, so I need to take the responsibility. Whatever happens after that, I'm going to do it. So I just shared that story. And as I was sharing that story, and I realized the green card hasn't even come, so then I thought I need to feed more content. Then the next question I asked in my head is, where else have I heard about it? In 2016, for a couple of training programs that I was doing, I was reading and started discussing things called Jack Ma, the founder of Alibaba Group at that time. So I immediately remember how Jack Ma forced himself to go to the town. He's a boy from rural China, not a strong background, but he was a very curious, enterprising guy. So he went to the city and he would offer the foreigners who stay in that star-class hotel bicycle rides and city tours just so he gets to speak in English with them. He didn't blame the Chinese system about not being able to speak in English, but he took the responsibility. I gave these two stories. By this time, the green card has gone to amber. Amber is almost into red. The next thing that was working in my mind, which is my last technique, is that I believe, and I can even share with you the reason why I learned this technique is because in 2014 in Goa, for the very first time when I was in the district finals of impromptu speaking, one of my veteran, one veteran Toastmasters and a dear friend from, he's originally not from Chennai, but he was in Chennai, Gautam won the championship. If you all remember which, I can see it's not in the head. Gautam won that competition and I was the first runner-up. And when I asked a lot of people, where do you think Gautam capitalized on me and how did I lose it? Because a lot of people liked the content that I gave and they simply said that Gautam's ending was memorable because if you remember Vijay, Gautam fell on his knees with his hands held high and then he said, if you don't fall for something, if you don't stand for something, he fell on the ground and on his knees he said, you will fall for anything, which is a very dramatic, very attention-grabbing, very powerful ending. So that's the third technique I use in terms of my conclusion, where I say, it doesn't matter whether the color card is red or amber, because in a competition, you only need to qualify, right? So my last point is, whenever I feel like I'm at a high point in my speech, and I have addressed the topic, I have given a story, I have created enough interest, if there is a very creative, powerful, dramatic ending where I can say, right? And if you all remember, again, another genius of a speaker is Selva, Chennai boy. If you all remember in 2017, I believe, Selva did this trick where he pulled out a hanky from his suit. I don't know how the hell he came prepared for that, but that was creative to another level. So my last point is, when you get to a creative point and a dramatic point in your speech, end high. So that's the way how I pace and structure my thinking. I hope answering that question, I shared a lot of the techniques that I follow, which is start, look at the topic, interpret it in your own words as an idea, ask yourself the question, do I agree with this idea or not? And then start with the first thought, trust your gut and your instincts, and then you structure the speeches with questions in your head and then answers as your content. And the moment you approach a high point and a dramatic way of ending, create a bang, and then end it there. Thanks for the question, and I covered 75% of my content. Any other questions, guys?
Any other questions?
Karthik, no questions, Karthik.
They say you have to be dare to be different, right? So always I look for you have to go against the topic and also find out something happening in the conference, give that spontaneity, and then most of the time it backfired me. How do I make sure I capitalize on those things?
Okay. Hey, good to see you, man. I love the hairstyle. So here's the thing. Now, because this is an advanced Toastmasters club, you will understand this. What Karthik asked is amazing, but that is an advanced technique. It's an advanced technique, right? That level of spontaneity is encouraged. It is like, how do you ask Dhoni to play the helicopter shot? Tala will play the helicopter shot after 30 years of playing cricket. But it doesn't mean that a player who's starting his cricketing career at 12 or 13 years, he might try that shot. He might get it right once or twice. But there is a high chance that he may not be as consistent as Tala. Right? So you come to that point with a bit of experience. You come to that point with a bit of trial and error. You come to that point with a little bit of confidence. Right? So my thoughts on that, Karthik, is that I would encourage that, but I would encourage you to think of that as an art form, and then to try it out outside of conferences, even during club contests, even during club table topic sessions. Try that, because the way you finish it on such a high note and make it look so effortless and so classy at a district conference is that you have done the ugly repetitions of getting it wrong so many times in club level and all of that. That's my encouragement. So on top of that, if I add something, going against the topic, very good idea, but you must understand you need to have a little bit of content to support that as well, right? Which means, to answer Karthik's question, this does not come just because you like the technique of going against the topic. This comes with the lifestyle of reading, listening to people who have different opinions, discussing about unpopular opinions, and you become a person who is capable of thinking different to the masses. So it again, Karthik, comes with a bit of experience of how you live and do things outside of your table topics life, right? And also it is the level of respect that you bring in. Even if you want to disagree with a well-established topic, you can do that, provided you do it respectfully without offending anyone in the audience, and also you back it by the reasons and the thoughts as to why you want to disagree with something, right? I'll give you an example of a point that I gave a speech long time ago, and I use it in training as well. This topic of never giving up. Because never giving up, 99.9% of the time people will try to agree with that topic because the context around it is that you should never give up. I'd agree with them 99.9% of the time. But there was an incident in my life where I had to question this. And I share this as an example of how and why to disagree with the topic of never give up. I had a friend who was struggling a little bit in life, and at one point he decided, he's been talking about how depressed and disappointed he was with life and everything. We kept telling him all these things that we hear from gurus online, the social media motivational speakers who will say, you do all that. We kept telling that to our friend. And one day, the guy decided to swallow a bit of extra pills. Don't know whether you call it lucky or unlucky, the fool didn't die. He was in the hospital. And then when you visited him, would you ever go up to him and say, Anna, you tried this time, it didn't work, never give up, Anna. Next time, try extra pills. Next time, go jump in front of that train. You don't go and tell never give up to a guy like that. That context says that idea of never giving up is incorrect. So, which means if you use an example like that, you can even disagree with the well-established topic of never give up. Because there are times and things in life when they are proven to be stupid, you give up, you stop. That's the thing. So disagreeing and going against the topic, or even giving a different perspective of topic, is entirely up to you. But remember not to like it or fall in love with it only as a technique of speaking. Understand that that is backed by a lifestyle of being a decent person who is open and curious and who's got enough content and substance to back an idea if you want to disagree. And also you're a nice person that when you disagree, you don't do that to offend people, but you do that because you are curious about it. And adding to that, you can even be inconclusive about topics. you ask me something like, is Modi ji the best Prime Minister for India? I'd say we are all finding it out. Right? Is Trump the best US president for the rest of the world? We are all still asking that question. But is he the best president for the United States? Well, people seem to think so. Things like that, not only in politics. Even if you ask the simple question, did we really come from monkeys? Some of you might have relatives who look like that, but then is that true? You know? So, if you get an idea that is complex, you can not agree with it. You can not only disagree with it, you can be like, hey, I'm open to it. Right? And also incorporating the theme of the conference to do that. Karthik, if you remember, we had a maestro of that from Bangalore called Savin Hegde. I remember listening to Savin in 2012. I believe the guy gave an impromptu, it was a humorous speech finals, but I believe he gave an impromptu speech in that. Because what he did in that 2012 finals was he dissed all the speakers who came before him. Right? But then he got disqualified also, so he didn't place. But not only that, after that I think CJs afterwards, like Vijay and all came and said, you can't refer to other speakers' content and all of that. Now it's a rule in Sri Lanka, they read it, so you can't refer to other speakers' content. But you can incorporate the theme of the conference, you can incorporate the location and things like that. It all comes down to creativity. But if the problem, Karthik, is how it backfires, need a bit of practice by, that's all. Right.
Do you have time to ask that question?
Guys, I can't see the time. If my time is up, just
20
shut up, right?
20 minutes
No,
up,
I
10
can
more
see.
minutes to go. 10 more minutes.
Sir, and a simple question. Do you have different
Yes, sir.
do you have different strategies for club level meeting table topics and contest, or you have the same strategy for both? You take it seriously, club level table topics.
Thank you for that question. That's, to be quite honest, I've often used club level as practice for district, because some of my older friends who's in the room knows that this district, within the district was one of those elusive titles that I've been chasing for the longest time. Yeah, and at one point I still remember in 2016 when I won in that campus. We were at IIT campus somewhere. No, sorry, not IIT.
Infosys.
Mysore.
We were there. When finally Sasta gave me that trophy, he said, finally I'm giving this. He wanted to give it to you to stop you from contesting. Right. So because I was like that, I used all the opportunities at the club level and everything. And then in the club, at that point, in 2014, by that time, 2016, by that time, I was a Toastmaster for almost 8 years. At my club, the table topics masters, when they come to the session, they have their standard introduction. This is the section where we do impromptu speaking, I give speeches, you speak for 2 to 2.5 minutes. You give the Toastmasters prescribed description of the Toastmasters table topic session. And then it was mandatory that all of them said, is there any volunteers out other than Sandun, Fernando? That's how they would say it as a standard of the club meeting. That's how annoying I was when it comes to that, but I apologize for that. But now I don't apologize for that, because I realize that Michael Phelps has been in water for 5 hours every day for 5 years at a stretch. Then I'm thinking, okay, I only come once in 2 weeks and take one table topic. So I also want to be different. So I'd say use the club table topics as that. But now, after having kind of built a bit of confidence and competency around it, I actually use the club table topics more to challenge my thinking and to share ideas. As you can see, I'm an old man, 15 years in Toastmasters, 2 sons and aged, and if I take off my hat, there is no hair, and then my beard has grown white and everything. So I qualify as that uncle category now. and then spent the holidays as young people. So now I use table topics to give them 2-minute life advices. Thank you for listening, because after club meeting, like you all have breakfast, mentally always goes out, have a meal, have a drink and everything. For the longest time, that's how I learned from the likes of Dhananjayas and all the great speakers at the club. But now I realize these young people don't invite me for these meal outs and all of that, right? Because I've reached that uncle age, giving them advices and all. So I use the table topics 2 minutes to give them that.
Thank you.
So that's changed. But yeah, it's a mix of all of these guys.
Thank you.
5 more minutes.
I have one
Yes,
question. So, what are we supposed to do if we get blank when the topic is being given? What should I do?
Okay.
If you don't understand.
I don't understand.
You know, ma'am, there is 33 million gods in Chennai, and if they can't help you on that day, I can't also. Jokes aside, there are some bad days. And I'll be very arrogant if I tell you that I can speak on any topic that is given. There are some days that, you know, Tala also gets out for 0 and they lose finals and everything. There are certain topics that you miss out, right? It happens. The only practical answer that I can give you is think of a different question. Because I rely on this, that we think in questions as humans. The quality of our life is also in the quality of the questions that we ask ourselves, right? Like I said, the question whether we came from monkeys or not, I mean, that's for someone else. I will never think about it in my life, right? If you give me $1 billion and tell me to solve that question, whether we come from monkeys or whether God created us, I won't even bat an eyelid. That's not an important question in my life, right? I think of more important and more practical questions that help me get on with life. Similarly, hear a topic and if you hit a blank and think of a different question about that topic, which means I told you the standard that I approach is think of it as an idea and ask myself the question, do I agree with it or not? Think of something different and then be like, I heard this topic before. Who has spoken to me about it before? And like what Karthik said, if I want to disagree with this topic, what can I say? So you think of a few different questions. Even in life, if you hit a blank spot, if you can think of a different question to think about, you can move on in life. You can get what you call unstuck, right? What happens if I can't figure this part out? What happens if I can't figure this part out? It comes down to creativity, and it also comes down to the number of hours you do your meditation and do your calmness, everything, because it comes down to your clarity of thinking. If you can calm down and know that, hey, I'm getting stuck here, right? I need to think of a different question so that I can start speaking on it. And then that thinking will lead to a little bit of creativity. You can look at the audience. Now, don't try this, everyone. But I have had speakers who will look at the audience and then ask, what do you think about this topic? You're immediately using a creative flow, and then you trust on some fellow to give some idea, right? Or you look at the topics master and then say, topics master, that's a wonderful topic. And even if you are more creative and less nervous, you can even look at it and then be like, by the way, have you thought of this topic instead of that? Or this interpretation of that. It comes down to that. So what is necessary is for you to be present in that moment, acknowledge the fact that, hey, I am lost for thoughts, I am getting a little stuck, but not to be there and then tell yourself, what is a different question that I can think about this topic that is going to generate more ideas. Because when you're stuck as a speaker, the way to get unstuck is to think of an idea to share, words to say, or something to speak on. Because as you start, you get back into that momentum of thinking, then, and this again is one of those techniques that you need to think about and practice when it happens. It's probably hard to recreate that in a practice environment, but whenever you get stuck, and if you're somebody who gets stuck quite often, this is. By the way, in impromptu speaking and in contest, getting stuck is a bad thing. That's why I said that, you know, it's one of those really bad days if it happens to you in a contest. But in life, you're not meant to have answers for all the questions all the time. Life is not meant to be a smooth flow of 2 minutes or 7 minutes of speech with no R's and R's and everything. In fact, one reason why I became an uncle is because I started listening to people like Professor Jordan Peterson. I started listening to people like Dr. Andrew Huberman. I started listening to people like Professor John Lennox. Again, I'm not trying to bloat myself, but I started listening to people who spoke of things that I didn't understand because I wanted to learn things that I didn't understand. And when I started doing that, I realized that none of them, if you know them, none of them will ever win even a club contest in a Toastmasters because they have so many R's and R's. They pause so much. But when you listen to them, it's the thoughts and the ideas that they have that are so rich. And when you read their writings, if you know Professor Jordan B. Peterson, he has taken 12 years to write his first book. He has thought of each and every sentence minimum 50 times and asked himself, can I write this sentence in a different way? And you know, this fellow is a rascal. I bought his book and I read his first page. It took me 75 minutes and I'm still reading like 12 pages for about 1 year. Complex and rich the thoughts are, right? But if you want to grow and get to the 1% of knowledgeable people with complex ideas and thoughts, you need to invest that time and then do that. So, apart from getting stuck in a speech, in life, never be afraid to get stuck about things that you're not familiar with, things that are beyond your current capacity of thinking and intellect. Don't be afraid. That's where you learn and grow and you transcend into a different level of a speaker, a human being. Yeah, I think that's a good place to shut up. Thank you guys. Over to Madam. Yes.
Thank you, Sandun, for keeping it as impromptu as possible. Thank you so much. Let me remind you, bro,
sorry,
this is...
Once again, thank you so much for having me. It means a lot even to virtually connect with all of you guys. You have the deepest part of my heart appreciating you for this honor and this opportunity. And I definitely very desperately look forward to coming to Chennai for one of the sessions, guys. And you'll have to excuse me, I might have to run away after this, may not be able to stay for the full meeting, but know that I love all of you.
Thank you, Sandun. Thank you. Let me remind you, bro, this is a one-time free card for you to come online, and you just used it. The next time, it's going to be in person, and we so look forward to seeing you. Thank you so much. Good luck to you.